Welcome to Curito Connects. I'm your host, Jenn, and I've been conversing with friends around the world about life challenges and impactful moments. Conversations on this platform look at answering the questions, how we overcome challenges and how our experiences shape who we are and the work we do today. I hope this work can inspire you on your own personal and individual journey. Let's dive right in. Hello, my guest today is Mike Tsai, founder of Wing Chun Connect, a Taiwan-based Wing Chun Kung Fu and Taijiquan martial arts school. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Jen.
Did I pronounce that right, by the way?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Born and raised in California, Mike moved to Taiwan in 2008 to dedicate himself to training full-time, creating a school to spread more awareness in Chinese martial arts, and how in these last 14 years, there has been ups and downs in choosing this path, and why he believes so strongly the benefits of martial arts practice can have on one's life. So I'm going to let Mike tell us more about how he chose the path of martial arts and why it has been so transformative for his own life and why he wants to share this art with more people.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you for that introduction. And actually, I don't know where to start.
How about let's go way back to California, and what did you study in school?
Right. I studied business economics at UCR, University of California, Riverside. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then after college, I worked a couple years.
Oh, did you do corporate?
I didn't do corporate, no, not quite. Family-run businesses, like smaller businesses, I'd say.
Oh, so you come from family business background as well?
Well, I would say I was part of another family's business.
Oh, okay, okay.
Not
personally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you tried that out for a few years.
Yeah, I did, and it was fine. But it wasn't very exciting, you can say. I sold shoes at wholesale.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like sneakers?
Sneakers, yeah.
Isn't that kind of fun too?
It's fun, but it gets boring. I mean, repetitive.
It is repetitive.
Yeah.
That's true. This kind of work is kind of repetitive.
Yeah.
So is that when you kind of decided to switch gears? Did you go off to grad school? How did you get exposed to martial arts?
Right.
Or has martial arts been always a practice you've had growing up as a kid?
After working for a few years, as I was saying, it became repetitive. So I took off and went to go snowboarding for just work at a
like
resort.
A ski shop, like a
resort. Yeah.
A resort.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to be like a snowboard instructor, and but actually it got.
Did it get tedious too?
No, it didn't get tedious. I'd say it felt like I was just playing.
Okay.
Yeah, and that I couldn't just keep doing that. So my parents told me to come back to Taiwan initially to study Chinese. Yeah, and not waste my life. You could say this was early 20s. I'd say like mid 20s.
Wait, I do have to ask.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
This is your parents saying like that's not a path for you, but at the time, were you thinking? If they didn't say that to you, do you feel like you would have thought that?
To come back to Taiwan or
to continue to work at a resort and pursue this snowboarding instructor career path?
I did, and then I realized that I probably shouldn't, because once again I felt like there was a little bit of too much play going on. I wasn't serious enough about what I wanted to do with my life.
I see.
But it was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed riding every day.
So at this point, was Kung Fu in the picture yet?
I wouldn't say so.
Okay, so this was like pre Kung Fu Mike, like not exposed to Kung Fu at all.
Right. I mean, just the karate classes here and there, but not traditional Chinese Kung Fu.
Okay, so then you came to Taiwan.
Right.
To study Chinese.
Right.
And is it fair? I don't want to stereotype, but is it fair to kind of say, you were this, Taiwanese American kid coming back to homeland in Taiwan, not having been raised here at all, right? You just probably came back to visit family here and there. And most people know, for those who are listening, a lot of times coming to Taiwan as an ABC, as an ABT, it usually involves some partying and just kind of exploring the island and enjoying the fun side of kind of visiting the island, right? So
totally,
were you kind of in that mindset as well when you were here? Like you came out here and thought, okay, I'm going to study Chinese, in quotes.
Right.
I'm in my in my early 20s, I'm going to experience Taiwan and kind of figure out what I'm going to do during this period. Maybe go back to the States to find a job afterwards or stay here.
Right. There was never like a plan at that time to get situated and stay in Taiwan for so long. It was more, as you say, that typical stereotype of ABCs, yeah.
Of coming out here.
Which is true, actually pretty true. Like.
Okay, so my stereotype was right. No, just kidding. Yeah. So what changed?
Right, what changed?
So you did do your part. You did do your, partying and your exploring. And at some point you had to get serious, like you said earlier, right? Like you had to be more responsible.
Right.
You had to kind of figure out what you were going to do so your parents wouldn't nag you.
Right. And it's interesting that that this conversation is going in that direction, because actually that's what happened, even though I felt like that my parents weren't necessarily ecstatic about
your choices.
My choices in life. It pained me more to think that I'd have to go back and work in an office or wear a suit or just dress up and go to work at 8 a.m. and stay in an office all day. Yeah, this was I definitely knew at that time that that's not what I wanted to do for work. From a young age, I've always
You were an active kid.
I was an active kid, but also I was going to refer to the Kung Fu. I was always interested in Kung Fu. How it's depicted in the movies
It's really cool.
It's really cool. It's like yeah, totally. It's really cool.
You like the outfits?
I like the outfits, but also like the ideas behind them and the amazing feats that people could do in the movies. And I always, in the back of my mind, I always had some sort of belief or some sort of feeling that actually it is true or it is possible to do some of the crazy things that you see in martial arts.
Karate
movies.
Chop the plywood.
Right, karate chop the plywood, or doing throwing fireballs out of your hands, or flying, or whatever, these things. Yeah, I'd say after this, I went to study Chinese, and then I was introduced to Wing Chun by a friend. Hey, you just you know that movie Ip Man? Everyone's into it. You should go try it. There's a guy teaching it in the 运动中心.
Like sports center.
Sports center, right? And so then I went to go try it. I thought it was pretty great. At that time, he only had classes twice a week, and it wasn't enough for me. I'd go to class on a Thursday, and then I have to wait until the next Tuesday, to like get my next
your dose.
No. Right. No, I was gonna say my next fix, but right. And then I went to go find his teacher, who later became my
teacher.
My teacher, yeah. I should say his name, right?
It's up to you.
Okay, yeah. His name is Sifu Lomen Kam. Yeah, and he is the nephew of Ip Man. He's like in his late 80s or now? Yeah, he's in his late 80s now. But so when I met him, he was probably in his 70s. And wow, I was impressed that he could still move around the way that he did, being that age.
And he probably didn't look 70.
He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't look 70, and really like his like spirit. You could feel his spirit. His energy was always like, it was always on. It was always like ready. He was always like ready to teach or ready to share, and people were really drawn to that.
So what about this class that your friend, invited you to that really that was your fix, I guess, right? I guess at that point you started to not go to parties as much and you were just really drawn to this practice. So what was it about this practice that really hooked you?
Right. So what that would be in Wing Chun, there is a practice called sticky hands, where you basically you make contact with, when you make contact with another person, the practice is to be able to stick to them, or like control them even, or follow.
Right.
Yeah.
Also with your eyes closed.
Yes, you could do it. Yeah, it's more like a tactile sensitivity kind of thing, where you don't have to use your eyes.
Right.
Right, and it's more about the feeling that you have on the skin and whatever's going on inside.
So that was what hooked you?
That was what hooked me, because I couldn't do it. At that time, I couldn't do it, and I didn't know. I mean, you could say I did it with quotes, but it was like not. It was so coarse, and it was so like unrefined. But that journey of learning how to do that was really
powerful.
Very powerful, but that's what even keeps me going
today.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say, most people who go into a class, if they were like, we're gonna master the sticky hand, but you have to come in for like half a year in order to practice before you get there. I think half the people in the class would have quit like by week 2.
For sure.
So yeah. I guess I'm just curious, like, you were very intrigued, like you really wanted to master this. Was there anything else in your life at the time where your focus was at, so I'm gonna, we talked about this before we start recording too. I'm gonna kind of go back to the yoga world example, right? So usually people who walk into a yoga class, and I'm stereotyping here, but it's usually, there's different reasons why people go into a yoga class. It could be because they want to try, their doctor said you should go do a yoga class, or, other people are like, you should go in for, deep stretches. And others go in because, again, they were recommended to go start a yoga practice because they are in a turning point in their life, right? And they're stuck and, they're trying to find something to find inner peace, right? So my question for you is, personally, at that point, was there anything that was I guess, like, trying to decide what career path you were going to take, where were you at in your life at, 20-year-old self. And then suddenly this martial arts master shows up in your trajectory, and you're like, this is it. Like, I want to devote myself to this practice.
Right. Yeah. So, it wasn't at my first, teacher's class where I really became hooked. It was after I moved,
Switch teachers.
Right, switched to my master now. At his school, I'd say I was training. We have to train with a lot of the older Kung Fu brothers, and there was an instant in one of my sessions with the older Kung Fu brother where he was able to take my balance and uproot me through this sticky hand practice. And it was just like, when I felt that was the moment when I was like, fuck, I have to learn this. I have to learn what this is about, because it was something that wow, like I feel emotional thinking about it, but it's like something that I just had to know. I had to know it, like after I felt that.
Okay, I'm just curious. Would it be fair to say that sometimes when people feel that, right, like that uprootness, and obviously we're using words to describe this, and it's very hard to transcend this meaning unless you really experience it on an energetic level. But sometimes is that the ego talking, going, oh, what is this? Like, I need to know what this is, versus, and we talked about this previously too, understanding the whole art form and the philosophy and the lifestyle that this whole, ancient practice is about, right? So for you, was it, where was that for you in terms of when you felt that? Was it more ego talking, or was it more like you knew a little bit already about the history and the philosophy? And then I wanted to ask, how did continuing this practice and this lifestyle and understanding it on a deeper level really impact you into then choosing this path and starting a career in this path? And then, I guess, how did your parents react to that?
Yeah. Originally, was your question about was it like an egoic kind of?
Yeah,
can you ask that one more time?
Yeah, so I'm just curious, is when you had that feeling when this older brother, was practicing with you, and you had that moment of what you mentioned, knocked you off your balance and uprooted you. And you said that was that moment where you're like, I need to study this and I need to learn how this works and how to do this. Did it come from also like an ego energy, right? Because I think sometimes, okay, I'm going back to yoga again, but when you go into a yoga class and you watch people get into a handstand, for instance, and you're like, I need to learn how to do that, right? Like, and sometimes it could come from an ego standpoint of like, to be like, yeah, look, I can do a handstand, versus like, it takes a lot of, like, to do it properly, it takes a lot of practice, and there's a lot of inner work and alignment and energy channeled to get into that one posture, right? So I guess that was my initial question, versus kind of going like, already understanding that to get there is all this other work and all this other study that it's not just the come for 3 sessions and you'll get there.
Right. Okay.
It's like, come practice for 10 years.
Right. I mean, had I known that, or had that been the case in the beginning, I wouldn't have made it to today.
Right.
Having that time constraint put on it. I would say that there was a deep, like, curiosity, you could say, that I felt inside when that happened. Yeah. Of course, I think there was, like, the ego part is always there. there was the like the cool factor too of wanting to be able to do these things. So I think in terms of ego, I think that's where I was, but with but it was like that craving for knowledge, craving for understanding, that was what drove me to continue, and also to stick with it till today.
Career path.
Career path. Okay, so that was became more and more interested in studying Wing Chun or Kung Fu, and there was I had a few older Kung Fu brothers that that helped me very much in my time at the school. And there was one in particular that I spent a lot of time training with, and he's also a teacher now also. But he was the one that kind of gave me a like kick in the butt, or like an attitude switch, like to make the decision to teach, basically. He was the one that helped me clean up like whatever was not on the right path in my mind.
What was not on the right path in your mind at the time?
Attitude. It's the attitude. Yeah, like, and the intention. Like if these things aren't there, like you it's really hard to reach your goal.
So what do you think, like now when you look back, where were you at then at the time before he kind of like, you know, gave you a slap in the head and said, yo, wake up.
Yeah.
Like this is not like you're either just, you know, go back to the States and do that 9-to-5 job, or clean up yourself and really got to focus if you want to walk down this path.
Right. Basically, the conversation was something like, look, you spend all these hours every day, every week, every month, training, and you're not going to do anything with it.
How long did you do that for?
What?
Like, training, just so you know, going back to our earlier conversation, right. You were in Taiwan to study Chinese,
right?
Which a year, 2 years ish, and then you started practicing. And how long did you study with your master? And I guess you were just studying, basically. Instead of Chinese, you were studying martial arts for like, a few years.
Right?
Were you like teaching English on the side?
I was teaching English on the side and tutoring. The training time was like in the morning and in the evening.
So you did that for like 3-4 years?
I did that for 8 years under Lomancom.
8 years?
Yeah. Basically 8 years. And I would also find time to go to another school.
To study further.
To study Taijiquan, yeah. And I kind of did those two
coincide,
yeah, parallel to each other.
Yeah, 8 years of studying, and yeah, you weren't going to do anything about it.
Right.
Forever a student.
Right. I mean, there was the. I guess to make the timeline a little more clear, it would be probably in my 3rd or 4th year was when my Kung Fu brother gave me this advice. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
So and it was because, well, hey, we train every day, and you still don't know if you like it, like that kind of. I'm like, yeah, of course I like it, but he was able to kind of open my eyes to kind of so that I could see further down the line, rather than just my everyday kind of training routine. Yes.
And how did your parents take that?
My parents, yeah,
because you clearly didn't go back and take a 9-to-5 job,
right? And
you stayed here and studied Kung Fu for almost a decade,
right? They weren't that supportive. I would say they weren't that supportive of
that choice.
it actually took many years. I should actually I say like only in recent years have they been more
accepting.
Right.
And what changed?
Oh, what changed? If since you're asking me on the spot, I think I think that it actually goes back to what I was just saying, the attitude, the intention. It was inside me that wasn't there when I had told them this is what I want to do. Does that make sense? Yeah. It was that it's that what was inside of me that changed. Where they were basically more accepting, and also the time. It's been so many years now that they're more used to it. They're more like, and I would say that there's benefits of my training that rub off on them. For example, I'll go home and give my dad massages because of the training. You kind of get to well, first of all, you get injured all the time, so you need to find a way to heal. And through that, you learn more about yourself, your body, and
right.
and where the what connects with what, and what you need to kind of manipulate or release tension, like to help in different areas.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Well, and also maybe like some philosophical mindset teachings as well, right? Like in terms of conversations you have with them, and being able to, or maybe not.
No. Well, I'm thinking about a lot of some things. I think those that are listening and are familiar with
Asian families.
Asian culture, yeah, Asian families, right? There's always like that. The
filial piety.
There's the filial piety, and then there's that hierarchy. If you're the adult, then you're always right. You're always, whatever you say goes, and if not, then you're out.
Right.
That kind of thing. So in terms of like philosophical, or like even just having discussions with them, I would say a little bit, but not a lot. But I think it was more on my part where I was able to change, and to not be as
reactive
about things, and be more accepting towards them.
Yeah.
About not.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. There's like, I don't know.
It's a cycle. It's like this is funny that we're talking about this right now because the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh just passed, right? And so I was just writing a post about some of the books I've read, and one of them that really resonated with me was The Art of Communication, right? So it is about how you choose your words, how you speak, how you listen.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it has to do with, if this goes the same if you're talking to a kid, if you're talking to your elders, if you're talking to the cleaning person on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
It's that same intention and attitude.
Right.
So yes, I think that's what you were trying to say earlier.
It was what I was trying to say. You put it beautifully, because the growing up in the Asian culture, and understanding how, especially Chinese culture, how the parents will kind of will exercise some control over their children. I think that was something that a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah, and struggle
a lot with, and I'd say prior, I would always point the finger and say, well, it's your fault, or like it's not my problem. But actually, as the days go by, I feel like it's more important to look at myself and adjust that, and
Then to point fingers
then
too.
to point fingers and then and like, you know, and then things will change for the better naturally, yeah, rather than try to control
the situation.
Right.
Well, that's good to hear that the relationship is better now, and that they're obviously accepting of your martial arts school that you've created here. Which brings me to the conversation about how any of this has been a challenge for you during these last, decade of, coming out to Taiwan to study Chinese, taking on this path of studying martial arts, and then starting your school, and then kind of positioning yourself, right, as at this point you're a teacher, a master yourself ish.
I wouldn't call myself a master, but yeah.
Well, headed towards that direction. But in terms of, the challenges you've encountered for yourself personally, right? Like, and you mentioned it as well in some of the points we were talking about earlier too, just kind of like where you were before. I mean, I guess could we say like you were kind of lost, when you first came out here in terms of trying to figure out what you wanted to do, and then you discovered martial arts, and that was kind of your calling. And so, yeah, if there was any other challenges that came about in terms of like then creating your school, and why you want to promote this practice, right? Why you find it very beneficial for yourself having studied it, and why you think, the world should embrace martial arts just like they do with yoga. I think it's fair I can make that comparison.
No, I think there's so many parallels with these types of practices,
yeah.
Right? And it always comes back to like how you do it, and with what intention you have when you're doing it. Challenges or hardships. Wow, I'd say one of the biggest challenges that I have encountered in terms of teaching is really holding the interests of a student beyond a set number of hours, because it takes discipline. It takes dealing with discomfort in yourself or whatnot to get beyond these challenges. So that drive and motivation, like, it has been something that I've struggled with, connecting with students to get them more interested, more curious about Kung Fu.
What do some of the other teachers who teach, like the older brothers, your own master? Oh, okay, he doesn't count because he has a name attached to him. So, but in terms of other teachers who teach, I'm sure they also encounter this problem too, right?
Sure.
In terms of retaining students, in terms of really being able to teach this art form.
Right. And you're asking what do they do?
What do they suggest to you? Or
just do it.
Just
do it.
Oh, don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it, but then you'll also notice that it's like this art or art in general is always like, it's expressed by the individual. So each of us have like different styles.
Yeah.
Each of us have not only different teaching styles, but like
personality,
and then their Kung Fu style is also different. Of course, there's gonna be like a, how do you say,
like a general, like,
right,
a basis, like a baseline.
Right. But then the specifics, the details it's all up to the teacher and what they want to share.
Oh, it's like branding.
Sure.
I mean, it's the same. Again, going back to yoga, but it's like yoga teachers, right?
Right.
It's like the asanas are all the same.
Right.
But the sequencing maybe not so, but that's each teacher's style of how they sequence the class.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And like how they how they adjust people or how
Yeah.
they
And so
work with their
likes attract likes.
right. Perhaps I'm just not haven't been patient enough with that.
It sounds like your next homework you have to
Uh-huh.
do.
Right. It is, I'd say. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier about changing mindset um and going within. And right, like if the attitude isn't correct, you're not gonna get the result that you want. But
So what keeps you going?
sorry?
What keeps you going?
What keeps me going?
Yeah. So like you were saying, like it's frustrating when you can't retain students or you can't seem to, you know, teach this art form in the way you're hoping that individuals can benefit from and really appreciate. So when you face that, how do you keep yourself grounded and to continue to push forth with it? Right. I guess practice more because that's how you spend a lot of your time.
It is that. I think one of the biggest ways that I do stay grounded is the continued practice, and building on the foundation that I've already built.
Right.
Right. And always just going deeper, which I think that's what it is too, like going deeper and how rewarding it is when you look back. Yeah.
So in just like a few sentences, how would you describe why you're so passionate about this and that you really want more people to be embracing it? And not just, like you said, not just the different modalities of martial arts, just martial arts in general, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, studying martial arts or Chinese martial arts, traditional Chinese martial arts, the philosophy behind it, a lot of it was built off of Taoism and Buddhism, and the understanding that when you can follow this way or this path, that it leads to like a much more deeper understanding of yourself, but also like when you do that for yourself, then your life also becomes more enriched in that process. So I'd have to say that's why I would suggest to others to try
to pick up this practice.
Right.
Okay, so before we wrap up, my usual concluding questions. For those who are listening who can resonate to your story, what would you suggest to them in terms of, being very consistent with something you're passionate about and at the same time making a living out of it?
I would say that it would be to one, like, be very clear of your goal and be very clear of how, like, what it is that you want to achieve. Whether it's to be a martial arts teacher or in anything, any sort of endeavor, and then be patient. Be patient about the process that you have to go through, basically, in order to get to, as you say, the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And my last question, for those of us who are very new to martial arts, what kind of books or, how can we learn more about it, right? From a very, just like a 101 tutorial, if we're curious about it, if we live in different cities, how should we go about researching schools so we can, hop into our first class? Like, is there like a book that, like if you, sorry, I'm going back to yoga. If you talk about yoga, they'll always be like, oh, well, you know, read like Light on Yoga by Iyengar. That's like a yoga Bible, you know, or, you know, there's different books in the yoga world that people usually will recommend as a start to kind of getting your exposure to yoga. Is there the same for martial arts?
If there is, I don't know about it.
Okay.
Yeah, but I will say.
I guess that's you can write a book.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Or is it all because it's in Chinese, or this?
Perhaps there are some in Chinese, but I wouldn't be able to recommend one where you could become interested in martial arts, because there's so many out there, right? I will say that there is a book that I would like to recommend. It's called The Art of Learning by Josh Waitskins. Yeah. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay. Anyways, it's based, but he's like a Josh Waitzkin. He's a world-time chess player.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he started to study Tai Chi. Oh. Yeah. Okay. And then he even came to Taiwan to compete.
Okay.
Yeah, and
were you his translator?
No. Yeah, he was. I think he's like a generation older than me. Maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, and now he's.
So the book is an integration of his chess career background, integration with Tai Chi.
Yes, exactly, and
Okay.
how what the similarities are with
the two disciplines.
Right, the two disciplines, and also how it's actually, if you apply these principles, you can learn anything. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll include that link in the resource section, including your website and your social media, so people can follow you or take classes from you.
Cool. Thank you.
For those in Taipei. And yeah, was there anything else you wanted to add to the conversation before we close?
No, I don't think so. Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all the time we have for today. So thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay.
That's all we have time for today. Thank you for listening to Curito Connects. For more Connects content, collaborations, and discoveries set to inspire you on your own individual journey, please head to our website at www.curito.co. Until next time, stay inspired, and thank you for joining us at Curito Connects.